It would be like 11 p.m. at night, and I'll read a message of like, hey, culture, I'm really going through a hard time right now. Could you give me some advice? And I'll share for 10 minutes and have a conversation with them. Like, you don't know where that's going to end up. If you've seen me write on Twitter, I refer to 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly a lot. Hopefully for anyone listening, that should be a guiding principle when you're starting from zero. It's the hardest phase for anything.
It sounds like the secret here is just to treat them as like this little like secret community, right? Where they're heard, they're understood.
If we think of it like starting a motor, your 1,000 True Fans are going to be the ones that help you kind of get that off the ground.
And so people want to build these companies that make tons of money, but it's impossible to do without the people rooting for you. And I'm sure it's the same thing with your pages, right? Where it's all of a sudden, if you're like, okay, guys, I'm shutting down culture, I'm shutting down best celebrations, everybody would be like, Quinn, no, where are you going? Like, how can we make this work for you? We love you. We want this here.
I've turned down a lot of money out of respect for the business model that's coming. For me, I feel like the business model that we're working towards is how do you find annual partners that really believe in you and work with you every year? And so it's like, okay, who's our beverage company? Who's going to be our food company?
I want to recap the growth strategy.
I guess the strategy for growing culture from 0 to its first 10,000 followers, if I put it into like simple terms, it was
Quinn, thank you for being here, man.
Thank you for having me.
Dude, of course. Okay. So for everybody listening, Quinn has built an absolute empire across Instagram, TikTok. We're 4 million followers. If you're a dude, you probably follow one of his accounts. He's the founder of Best Celebrations, posts everything sports related, mainly football, and then also culture, which is just super inspirational. Quinn, you've absolutely killed it when it comes to socials and building these huge brand pages. And I think throughout the episode, we're going to touch on various topics, but most importantly, what is like the model behind these pages? What is the business model? How do you plan on monetizing? How are you currently monetizing? What is the future of these brand pages? And then just for anybody else that's thinking about getting in this space, how to do the same and what that playbook consists of. But before we get there, game time.
Let's play our game.
Game time.
Okay.
Okay, so Instagram or TikTok, whatever you prefer. And then, pass me your phone and we'll find out who the algorithm says that Quinn is.
I feel like Instagram because my TikTok is trained for business purposes.
Super valid.
As someone here has taught me.
Yes.
So if you go through my explore page, I feel like.
Okay, I'm loving this. Very aesthetic.
Yeah.
This is very Quinn coded to me.
Right.
Also, for those that don't know, Quinn has been like longtime friend, has, I think, seen us through the beginnings of Play Kit and has honestly been like mentor in that way. So very full circle moment to have you on the podcast and thank you for coming. But yeah, seen a lot of very aesthetic because you're also very into photography, film. I'm seeing a lot of like sports, action. Do you find that you take a lot of inspiration from what you consume into what you create?
For sure. I feel like what you consume has to be a reflection of what you want to create. It's like it's so easy to get sucked into the wrong versions of social. And I mean, you can step into those, whether you're building a specific product or you're doing something specific to train your algorithm, like we talk about. But when it's for your personal stuff, it's like, let it be a reflection of you because that way it's like, it becomes a giant Pinterest board.
This is like actually the craziest explore page I've ever seen. I think like my explore page, if I went on here, it'd be like 3 like half naked men, like horses and like fat removal. Like this is the most aesthetic, like this is Pinterest to me. Yeah. So I don't even know how you do this, but I think it shows true to your character and then also in the way in your intentionality with your actual brands as well. So this is like, honestly, I'm impressed in the way you consume content.
Thanks.
That's a skill.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So what's on there?
Okay, so dude, like
I have to do it before my phone does too.
So true.
I'm chronically on 1%.
Which is also a skill. Okay, I'm seeing some football, so that makes sense. Like best celebrations. Seeing some sports makes a lot of sense. Skiing, photography, like I feel like these are all it's very interesting to see the assets of your personality and how it's actually reflected into businesses that you've created.
Right.
That's such a beautiful thing. And I hope that you feel a lot of like synchronicity between
Yeah,
that?
I think and when we get into like what I'm trying to create, it's like for me, the driving motivator has always been about honestly the work I want to put out in the world and how I can like translate that into my brands. And so by
Mm.
consuming that, I get inspired by the artists and people in the community. I feel like that's really where I connect, and it's where like my origins were from, as far as social goes. And so, yeah,
Okay, dude. Well, I would love for the audience to kind of have some context into who you are, how you got here, how you started Best Celebrations, why. Just tell them what you think is relevant for
yeah.
them to know who you are.
I like to say I've been doing social for half of my life. I'm
Okay.
25 now, and I got really lucky. I feel my parents were both entrepreneurs. My mom was a speaker for Tony Robbins for over 30 years.
That's awesome.
My dad as well. They met at a castle, or his like castle in Del Mar.
So,
My dad was like, "Who is this girl? Why is she here?" And then like eventually they hit it off. And so growing up, I feel like I had the privilege of being in scenarios where I was always learning and being put in rooms where like you're a young kid and you get to watch like the best of the best perform, speak, learn from people in Tony's world. And eventually I feel like that's what led me into entrepreneurship. And so, and that road was like, yes, I was in it, but there was no point where it was like my parents were forcing that on me. It just
Mhm.
kind of happened naturally. I think that a lot of us, maybe in the social space or you go into crypto, whatever, it's like people came from the gaming world. And that's where I originally started to connect with people. It was like, how do I build a clan on Call of Duty?
Mm.
And then that translated to, oh, now I am making friends on Vine and editing sports clips together. And we're doing Revine for Revine, which was like the OG shout out for shout out before.
Yeah.
So it was like these like phases of, I feel like, social as it evolved. And I was able to really get my hands in stuff early. And the interesting part is I feel like I didn't really I was doing it because it was fun. There was no point in that like early phase of growing on social where I felt like it was a job. I mean, there was that moment where I made my first $5 and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool. I can do this." And then I went through like, a different phase of that where I'm in high school trying to figure out what the hell do I do with this thing.
Mm.
And so growing in that space, meeting people really young and having mentors like Omar was my first like real mentor. I remember I was reposting things without credit to certain people. And so Omar, for context, is now ESPN original founder of House of Highlights.
Sick.
He was the first one that told me, "Is like, dude, you gotta credit people when you take their clips." I was like 13, 14. I was like, okay, yes, Omar.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, yes. And so, yeah, I feel like that like younger phase of it has now, there was so much life lived between then that I didn't really understand who I was fully yet. But now coming back in my later years, I can kind of figure out where I want to take these brands. And the cool part is like they're still lasting. I think that the the testament for what I like to build is like I want to build it for a lifetime. If I can't build it for a lifetime, then I don't want to be involved in it. And so
Mm.
that's really where I try to position myself as far as the work that I create.
Gotcha. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay, so tell people a little bit about Best Celebrations. We'll start there.
Yeah.
What is it? What's the story? The intention? Why did you start it in the first place?
Best Celebrations started as a Vine account too.
Okay.
If anyone remembers the moment Vine was shutting down, there was like a massive panic. It was like someone put off like a tsunami alert. It's like, oh, we all gotta go to Instagram now. And so at the time, I was actually just starting to dabble in Instagram. I bought an account called Athlete Cribs for like, I was making money on Vine, right? I was like $5 stacked up to $100. I bought an account called Athlete Cribs for $100. It had 10,000 followers,
Okay.
and that was like my first like I was like a little earlier in transitioning to Instagram than most of the other guys.
Smart. Wait, so you started out by buying an account
bought-
versus just start. What's like the mindset there, or the strategy there?
I was just like, I don't want to have to start from scratch on Instagram. I know nothing about
Smart.
this platform. And so I actually grew that account more. I didn't have any money. I was like 13 trying to make it on Instagram. But I used my editing skills from Vine to then go to bigger sports pages. There's one called Sports Finds with like 500K at the time. I was like, I will edit your videos for free in exchange for shout outs. It was like an overnight shout out, a night for like 3 edits. And then I used that to grow Athlete Cribs. So you flash forward when Vine's shutting down, and I had started to transition best celebrations into the Instagram world. And so the way I'll kind of explain it is I grew Athlete Cribs. It was a big account. And then I was able to use Athlete Cribs to grow best celebrations without any money at all. I would just collaborate with smaller pages online. And then best celebrations I found really quick was growing way faster than the original account that I had. And it was at like 50K in its first week. And so I ended up just leaning fully into that. And probably, I think within like a year and a half, it was at its first million on that. And the thing about sports is it taps out a little faster than some niches. And so as time goes on, you have to get more creative and figure out how you expand from there.
That's so interesting. So it sounds like it's almost a network effect of, you had this one account that you bought, which I'm super curious about, by the way.
Yeah.
And then that helped grow another account. And then it sounds like through other partnerships that also has grown best celebrations. And that initial first account that you bought, where do you even go to find an account to buy? How does that work?
Those are like the real scrappy days, I feel, of social. Like nobody really knew what they were doing. It was just like, okay, that was when chronological order was still a thing. And so shoutout-for-shoutout was really big at the time because you could go to sleep, you could put up like 10 different posts. So you picture it, you're like, okay, I'm going to do 10 different shoutouts with other pages towards best celebrations. So you would wake up and you'd have the first thing people see are like shoutout-for-shoutout posts because it was chronological order. Everyone was waking up on Pacific Standard Time, whatever it was. And so, but buying the accounts themselves, it was really just as simple as a DM and a PayPal transaction.
That is so interesting.
And then you would hope that the guy wouldn't change the password later. And so, yeah. So
that's so
super
funny.
scrappy.
It's hilarious because I bought the account for $100, and once I was done with it, I didn't even think about how much the value of it. I ended up selling it at $60,000 for $100 as well. I just was like, okay, I want to move on to best celebrations. There was like no real big acquisition for it. I kind of just like got what I needed out of it and then moved on to the next thing.
That is so interesting. In my 13, 14, 15-year-old years, I was a big horse Instagram account girl. And I remember the like fury of, oh my gosh, I need to comment on all these Instagram accounts. I need to win the account giveaway. And I'm like, Mom, don't talk to me. I need to tag all these people on Instagram accounts to win this big one. It's such a funny time. And I think people probably don't realize that a lot of these big Instagram accounts are run by like 14-year-olds, which is crazy.
And I feel like as you get older, you have to go back into that. Like
Yes.
That's what I had to keep reminding myself. Like the youth really does steer a lot of like the sports editors on Vine that we see now. It's like those guys are insane. These kids are going to come out of high school and have direct jobs with the NFL, with big leagues. And so like you want to keep your eyes on this stuff and not fall asleep to like the real high-end stuff because it's the scrappiness that eventually turns into all the talent that we see. And so like I've had to remind myself of that more. It's like those little niche pockets of the internet that it's like that's where real magic happens. And it's still alive to this day. Like there's still editing communities and there's still all these things. It's just a little bit different. But the passion for the same kid that I was like in my room editing lacrosse clips is still there for like a lot of these kids. And so
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Okay, so the buying accounts I think is huge. A lot of brands probably don't even know that that's an option.
Yeah.
You can totally do that. Back then, it was super scrappy. There wasn't like marketplaces or anything for it. Now there is. I don't know any off the top of my head. Do you know any current like marketplace where you can buy accounts?
No, there's no marketplace, but there's definitely been examples of companies who have done like major acquisitions. There was a company in sports. So a lot of us were like younger, kind of like we were 16, 17 with million follower pages. And so Wave TV came in and they acquired a lot of the networks within sports. So one day there was probably like 100 plus pages. Next thing you know, there's probably like 10 of us who actually are still left with a big following because there was a big acquisition.
Gotcha.
So people can like come into niches and say, okay, we're going to acquire these at scale and hire them to run it, etc. And so, but yeah, no marketplaces. It's still one of those gray areas that it's like, okay, what does that look like? Because if you go into the terms of that, it's like there's no, Instagram doesn't really want you doing that. So you got to figure out a way where you're actually probably acquiring like their LLC and then like transferring that as like an asset of that.
That makes sense.
It's so interesting because it is a huge, I mean, we've talked about doing this for our own socials too of buying an account because it's huge social proof. I mean, when you are DMing influencers or DMing other companies or people go to your Instagram almost as a website landing page now. And if you have 10K plus followers, it feels like you're so much more official.
Yeah.
But a lot of times those can just be bought, which is funny.
Yeah. And it's like, it does get easier, but also at the same time, it's like there's some sort of like gratification I feel like comes when you know that you built that from the ground up.
Totally.
And I mean, we can get into that too. Like that's kind of the lead into like culture and how I picture that, because I've had this handle since 2014. And
wow.
There's part of me that it went through different phases of its growth. Like it was a travel page and I was like posting pictures of influencers from Bali. And there's part of me that was like, this doesn't feel like what it is supposed to be. And so, yeah, it's like you can always start from zero. And as you guys know, it's like if you know how to get views, if you know how to build an account, like you can bring people into your world and have them rave about you and be a fan. And so, yeah.
Right. Okay. So I think buying accounts is a super cool strategy. So you did that, it transitioned. Now we're on Best Celebrations, Instagram. Tell me a little bit about, what was like the growth strategy behind the account? And also like what exactly is the content that is on that account for people that don't know?
So if you've been a follower of Best Celebrations, you probably recognize like a 4 to 5 year period where all the comments were, can you please post a celebration? And we went through this phase where, so because there's so many sports fans, I started to get to a point where I just wanted to keep the page alive. I just wanted to post things because when you're averaging 100,000 plus likes, like you want to keep it that way. And so we started getting into a position where we went from like Best Celebrations to meme page. And I can't lie, there was like a 2 to 3 year period where we were stuck at this 2.7 million follower mark. We would gain 100,000 followers, but we would also lose probably 120. And so we had this period where we weren't moving the needle at all. And it was really frustrating. And I was like, why is this not happening? Like we're getting likes, engagement, all-time highs of that stuff. And I just had to ask myself, I'm like, okay, am I like losing the plot of my own brand? I feel like over time, like you can forget those things. And so in the initial phases, what brought people in were those celebrations, was creating little things that nobody had really seen on the internet. And it was like a reflection of the brand's personality.
Like sports celebrations.
Yeah, sports celebrations. So, I mean, the original was just these little like 6-second Vine clip edits with guys getting to touchdown doing a funny dance, and that was it. But we were really focused in that direction. And as the years went on, as we gained followers, as I tried to, as it got more complex with like trying to work with Nike or these people, or like they don't really want you posting this, and then you start like putting a box around what your brand is becoming. And I had to step away from that as it grew again. I was like, okay, we got to 1 million doing this. We got to 2 million doing shoutout-for-shoutout with other big pages at that mass, right? You have people with 600,000 followers promoting your page, like that smaller model we talked about. But a lot of it, I feel like now in the current growth strategy is playing into IP and original content, and then also going back to our roots of celebrations and expanding that and really defining. I feel like I had this exercise with someone recently. They're like, we're trying to figure out what our brand is. Like, what's our content style? And I was like, well, have you like defined what, because I can't give the exact name of the company, but what they're doing is so one-dimensional that they feel like they're reaching a point where they're just hitting a wall. And I had to do the same exercise for myself. Okay, if we're only posting celebrations and our celebrations aren't even getting that much engagement, what is the next layer of that? Defining the celebration. Is it also highlighting the loss of when someone loses and showing that moment? Is it also showing these like emotional, someone beating cancer and a player going through that experience with them? Like for me, I had to really, okay, what is the celebration? Like it's more than just that moment when someone hits the end zone and does their dance, but it really is about all the moments leading up to that, the mourning, the grief, the this. And so for me, that gave me a whole different aperture of how I could take this as a company, and also like what type of content I could create during that.
That's really interesting. So really asking, why, getting into the consumer psychology of why are people consuming this? Why do they like it? How do I go so deep into that and get at the root of that for social growth?
Yeah. And it's like, it's your responsibility, I feel, as a brand owner to do that for people. Like, yes, people are going to tell you what they want, but you also have to go through that process yourself of like, oh, where is my creative process within this, and how do I reflect parts of me through that I resonate with? Because I'll be honest, it's like you go 10 plus years running the same thing. It's like telling the same joke at every comedy show. It's like eventually you're just like, you don't even want to hear your own voice anymore. And so I had to ask myself, like, okay, how can I make this exciting for me, even when like, those moments are great, right? But I want to make it to where I'm putting some sort of expression of my own work into my companies. And I feel like losing that is when the company starts to take a stall as well. And so,
okay, so I want to recap the growth strategy. So it sounds like from zero to like the first million-ish, big strategy was just like buying the account that had something, an amount of followers. Cool, so you don't have to start from scratch. Then it sounds like you were leveraging this like shout out for shout out strategy where you're partnering with other accounts. Explain that a little more in case people don't know what that is.
Yeah, let's use a more recent example. I think Culture is a really fun one because I started this a few years ago, and Culture is one of those brands where I know I can get it to 1 million followers if and when I put that energy in to bring it there. I think that so it had lived on a 400,000 follower account until like 2 years ago. And it was a travel page. We posted Bali photos, all this different stuff. And eventually I was just like, you know what? Let's start from zero. I transferred the name to a completely fresh account. I didn't want anything to do with those 400,000 followers, regardless of if it was going to help me grow faster. If you've seen me write on Twitter, I refer to 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly a lot. I think that for me, hopefully for anyone listening, that should be a guiding principle when you're starting from zero. It's the hardest phase for anything. It took me like 4 months to get my first 1,000 on Culture. Nobody was biting. And I think that the more that I focused on just building for those 1,000 True Fans, my first 100 followers, like friends and family. And then from there, what I realized is that the process of building the brand and figuring out what resonated with people, and then you can bring in some of those growth hacks, like collaborating with pages. Like there's a bunch of pages out there. If you're a music page and you're wanting to grow, it's like go find a Drake fan page and collaborate with them. Pay them $30. See how that resonates.
So what does that mean exactly? Collaborating, like you pay them to have them post something on their page.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or you create something so organic that they just naturally want to work with you on that. And so there's multiple ways to go about it. And I think that people get in their heads of like, oh, I need money in order to do this. It's like, well, we go to certain artists for Culture, and they don't even, we're not asking them to pay for us. It's like we want to cover their story in a unique and in-depth way that makes them want to share that with their group. And so for me, Culture became something where it was like stories with intention. So it was like, okay, how can I go deeper? I looked at the archive space where it was just the reposts and the reposts of the same thing. And so I said, okay, what's my differentiator in this factor? It was going to be adding more design, getting deeper within the stories of certain people like Michael Jordan or whoever it was, and then sharing that with the audience. And the reason it was so hard in the beginning is because most people weren't doing it. They weren't taking time to make slideshows, these in long depth stories where you stopped and actually read something for 5 minutes. We're so used to just like scrolling as fast as we can. So it took a while before like my first 1,000 True Fans caught on. But once that happened, it was like the followers were gaining so much more faster than I'd originally realized. And then I think you just start to find these moments in time. It's why living in social is also really important. I kind of recommend anyone, it's like be in your niche. Suddenly you find out that carousels with music are getting onto Reels pages, and that's going to grow your carousel post that you put all this effort into and translate to thousands of followers if it pops off. And so for me, it was, I guess, the strategy for growing Culture from zero to its first 10,000 followers. If I put it into like simple terms, it was first establishing the brand and design style that I wanted. So like Julia was saying, when you land on someone's page, it's like, it's your highlight reel. It's like people are going to see all your best work, and that's going to get them to follow usually. It's like when they see, okay, I just landed on Culture. Oh my gosh, every post is designed beautifully and it goes for 100 posts. That's what's going to usually translate to those followers when they come in, because you're competing against thousands and thousands of people. You want to make it feel like these people just found a hidden gem that no one else on the internet knows about.
Right.
The second one would be use your resources to collaborate with people who already have engagement, but make it work for them as well. Don't just make it so one-sided where it seems like an ad. It's like create something interesting together, pay them to amplify it where it's probably not even a burden for them to share it, and then use that to get new eyeballs if you're having a trouble like jump starting it. If you're really stuck at that like 100 follower phase, just collaborate with a few people, buy the collab posts, tell them you'll pay them for this, and use that to jumpstart that first initial run of it. And then the third is like it really does come down to staying consistent and engaging with people. I think that the more conversations you have, you don't realize how many conversations go on about you that you don't know about. If you interact with someone's story or have a 5-minute conversation with a follower, they're probably telling their group chat about, oh my gosh, there's this page that like they talk to me and they help me through this. And there are these things that live outside of social. Like I've had countless people be like, oh my gosh, man, like, yeah, your thing was in my group chat and they told me about what you said and shared your writing. Cause like it would be like 11 p.m. at night and I'll read a message of like, hey culture, I'm really going through a hard time right now. What could you give me some advice? And I'll share for 10 minutes and have a conversation with them. Like you don't know where that's going to end up.
True.
And you don't have to have like an expectation of where it is, but you just like, that's why for me, it's really living. I want to connect with my followers and feel like they have a friend sometimes. And so
build community. Yeah. In the same way as building a product, you're listening to your users, you're listening to your followers, you're building with them and for them and really creating something that they want, which is really interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's super cool.
Like even another example for best celebrations. One day I posted on the story, I was like, add me into your sports group chat. And like to this day, we're in like 100+ sports group chats.
I love that.
And I'll pop in, I'll be like, what's up, boys?
That's so cool. I love that.
So, and that was just for me. Like I can come in and then, if I ever do a merch drop, I can say like, oh, like, who wants a free hat in here? And just like promote that in an organic way and still give back to them and show up for like, hey, I'm interested in being more than just a page.
That's so cool. It's really doing the things that don't scale is how you scale.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because all those individual conversations leads to them telling their friends and them telling their friends. And it just has such more of a ripple effect than you could ever imagine.
I feel like that's really been your guys' story too. It's like you spent so much time on the relationships in the beginning that now you can get to a point where it's like your company can really grow because there's been so much trust there and relationships that have been built with your team and your creators. And that's like, it's really where the magic happens, I feel.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like people skip a lot of that really important community, team building part of growing a brand, growing a business, growing anything. You need a team, you need a community, you need a family to make it work. And when you invest time and energy and love into those people, it gives back. Like you cannot do anything by yourself. And so people want to build these companies that make tons of money, but it's impossible to do without the people rooting for you. And I'm sure it's the same thing with your pages, right? Where it's all of a sudden, if you're like, okay, guys, I'm shutting down culture, I'm shutting down best celebrations, everybody would be like, Quinn, no, where are you going? Right. Like, how can we make this work for you? We love you. We want this here. And it's the same for really successful brands and really successful products. And I think people often skip that. And there's not a real playbook on exactly how to do that. But a lot of times it's just reaching out and telling people who are around you that you're available for conversations and replying to people when they reach out and being that open person. That's really all you can do and all you have to do. Yeah. Because most people don't do that. So it goes a long way when someone does.
Yeah. And they have an expectation about how fast they have to get there. And there's so much little like a relationship. You don't like when you're fully like in alignment with someone, I feel like, oh, like that took a lot of like ups and downs and we had to go through this and we had to argue here and throw shit at the wall there. It's like, okay, there are so many things within building that relationship that earn that trust down the road. And people are like, they want it, but they don't want to have to do all the work that it takes to get that thing.
Yes.
And so, or communicate or have the hard conversations like they're supposed to with their team or whoever. I feel like a big thing for me as a creative, especially as a founder who cares a lot about his companies, has also been like letting go and giving people the trust that because no matter what, it's not going to be perfect as a founder, right? Like, it's like, okay, no matter how much control you think you can, it's like, you got to let people fall on their face there. I feel like if you can just be right there to help them back up, that's really where I had this conversation. It's just asking better questions with my team now. And I feel like that's where they've been to grow. It's like, okay, like, where could we have done better though? Instead of like always finding something wrong, like giving them the support to grow from that. But it takes a lot. I mean, sometimes like, things aren't always roses and
Oh,
butterflies.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think a really good takeaway for people listening is this like model of building your first 1,000 true fans is super cool. Something you mentioned. It sounds like the secret here is just to treat them as like this little like secret community, right? Where they're heard, they're understood. They feel like they can message you or DM you at any time. It's not scalable once you get to, 1 million, 2 million, 10 million followers. But I think to build like that first 1,000 can have like a huge ripple effect on the line because they do spread the word.
If we think of it like starting a motor, it's like your 1,000 true fans are going to be the ones that help you kind of get that off the ground. It's often overlooked because people want to get there to the 100,000 mark faster. And so then they do everything they can to like hyper focus this growth, and then it's unsustainable. It's like it's their first time there in that spot, and they don't realize that this is a 10-year plan for a lot of people. It's why content creators who suddenly have that viral video overnight, they often don't know what to do with it, and then their engagement drops and they're torn, and all of the like emotions of when things don't go well, it really gets to people because it's like you didn't actually go through that struggle to get that first 1,000 people that care about you. And I think that in like a world where social, it's easier than ever to get reached, but it's also easier than ever to like lose the attention of those people. And so I feel like putting emphasis on that and also like finding ways to elevate your content to be a reflection of you. Like I talked about, like you look at my feed, it's like, well, okay, how do I actually do those things and start to create that work in the world? And so, yeah, 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly is probably one of the best articles I feel people can read. It lowers the expectations that you need millions of people to make a successful company or a product or whatever it is, and that you only need 1,000 people to care about you, 1,000 people to buy your artwork. It's like I saw something the other day. It's like we had 2,500 people on a wait list and are at 20K MRR. I was like, oh, like yeah, it really probably isn't as complicated as we make it out to be sometimes. And so for me, like I go back to that because it also simplifies it for people. Because if you put your head to, because it'll come without you knowing it. Like suddenly we're at 100,000 followers and it's like, oh, okay, that's over 100 posts. It's like, okay, imagine when we start really, we took a year to find the design style that we want, the font that really like was resonating with me, the profile picture of like Michael Jordan. Like those things just like happen one day and it's like, oh cool, suddenly that's a part of my brand identity and that's what people are falling on and it's working. And then what's the next phase of that? And so, yeah.
Okay. I love that. So it sounds like do things that don't scale going 0 to 1. And then 1 to 10, it sounds like you have a social team.
Yeah.
What does that look like to have like pages that actually have scaled? Who are these people that are helping you grow these pages, sustain them? How does that work? How are you monetizing? Give me the lowdown on kind of that.
Yeah, so I feel like one of my skill sets is whatever platform I put energy into, I feel like I can grow it. And so for a while, it's been Instagram. Like I feel like Instagram is one of those platforms that I've spent so much time on. And if you give me a blank Instagram page, there's a chance that I'm like, okay, I can figure out a way to grow this and reach the right people. I think that when it comes to building teams for me, it took me a while to learn, like stuff is clicking now. I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this earlier? One of the biggest mistakes I feel like social teams make is they try to have one person do everything.
Yeah.
And when I work with clients with my agency or whatever, I say, let's hyper focus on one platform to start. Because people get their expectations of, oh, we need to crush everything. I'm sure PlayKit goes through this as well. It's like, guys, we will crush it on TikTok for you. Like, let's that be our focus for now.
Exactly.
And so for me, I like to put people in a position where they're set up to win and not burn out and feel excited about the results that come from that. So it's like, if you are on Instagram, you're going to get your salary, but you're also going to get like a percentage of the bonuses that we get and et cetera, et cetera. But your main focus is Instagram. I'm not going to force you to like be TikTok and YouTube and Twitter as well. And so I feel like for this next phase specifically of Best Celebrations, It's putting people in a position where they're excited about the spot they're in. It's like, oh, if you want to grow the YouTube, like spend every second of your day making that happen. And so for me, I feel like that's the first phase. And then the other side of it, it's kind of interesting because we have our curators. So it's a lot of people watching that daily news. Okay, what keeping track of sports, it's constant. As we sit here right now, probably something, a new headline came out, etc. And so it's a very moment to moment world. It's why like preferably I want to step away from it and go into the more creative role. But there's that side of it where you have to have people on it all the time, watching watching news, creating posts for that, finding out viral formats, etc. I feel like my next step of it is how do you build out that creative team? You know, finding people when we're working with 12 plus NFL teams. Who's that like videographer that's going to start building out that IP with us? What are the shows that we're going to do? And so for me, Best Celebrations kind of becomes like an incubator of some sorts of like what products can I create? We have like our first merch drop, which took me 10 years, right? It's like I'm not perfect. But like I put like every little like everything's cut and sewed, all the details, the storyline behind it. It's like that stuff. I feel like then you can start to put your effort as a founder into the things that are a little bit more complex, but will add to that brand as like a creative entity of some sorts.
That's so interesting. I'm really curious. So how big is the team right now?
We have like 4 people. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then
this is Best Celebrations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you get bonuses and whatnot. Where does this money come from? Big partnerships with like the NFL. Is money coming from that? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, and like on that theme too, just like how does like the business model with these like brand pages work?
Yeah. So we can call them theme pages for the most part. So Best Celebrations, I've started to kind of take myself out of that. Like, oh, like let me just buy like a feed post for this much. It's like that works for a while, but I've turned on a lot of money out of respect for the business model that's coming. So for me, I'm not as interested in taking like the sports gambling partner that's like pays really well, but is a one-off and maybe doesn't build towards brand equity that I want. For me, I feel like the business model that we're working towards is how do you find annual partners that really believe in you and work with you every year? And so it's like, okay, who's our beverage company? Who's going to be our food company? Who's going to be the traveling and like Delta or whoever? And so for me, I feel like I'm moving towards that more specifically because then you can build out a vision. I feel like we're kind of sold on this thing that like, oh, it, everything has to be like short and snappy. And if it doesn't work in the first like 3 takes, then it's over. It's like, well, I want to build with brands that are going to stick with us for 10 posts and be willing to kind of like fish it out because it doesn't always work first try. It's like, oh, okay, like we have to learn. But the business model for Best Celebrations right now has been pretty much purely media focused. So it's brand like DraftKings wants to come in and activate for Super Bowl. So we come up with an idea. What is a celebratory moment that we can create? Oh, we can give away 2 Super Bowl tickets, fly them out, pay for their stuff, and then document the moment of when they win that ticket. And then, so it's like curating this moment, but capturing that and sharing it. Where it expands though is the IP. So you start getting talent in. I think Doing Things Media has done this really well. They started with theme pages, like what you would think is just a normal meme page, but then they go and spin out something like Recess Therapy, which is then their own show and their IP that they own. So all of the pages within Doing Things Media are just funneling towards building that show, Recess Therapy. And so I feel like us for Best Celebrations, it's like going into that field where it's like, okay, what's the more interesting stuff that we can create here and use Best Celebrations to, like what I was saying before, it's like collaborating on a post with 0 followers. It's like we, as Best Celebrations, we get 200 million views a month. So we can now kind of funnel our own products and shows and use that to our advantage without having to pay a penny.
That's super interesting. So with those like sponsored posts, what does that typically look like? And do you think when you do take those deals, do your followers know that those are sponsored or does it still feel very organic with your brand?
We try to be organic. We try to not do things that are going to make someone feel like they're like being sold to too hard. I will always turn down something that feels like it's inauthentic to, like if I know something is, I mean, I'll give you an example. There's a big studio that wanted to pay me for this very gory post. they'd sent the money before. I was expecting something super clean, whatever. And they sent over like, hey, can you post this right now? I was like, honestly, I was like, no. And so I sent them back the money. And for me, it's like, that's the first step. It's like, I don't want to put someone in a position where they're scrolling through their feed and they're like, what the? And
Yeah, totally.
So
that's super interesting. So like continuing to protect the brand actually in turning away money actually continues to bolster it and makes it more valuable.
Well, because if you're collaborating with people like the NFL, like if the conversations get more serious, then everyone's watching you.
Yeah.
And so for someone like, we're not getting paid by the NFL right now. Like I was telling someone this earlier, if this happened last year, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl and they send you a collaboration post that is a celebratory moment from the sideline, like you're not going to be like, oh, can you pay us 10 grand for that?
Yeah.
It's just beneficial to your brand. What we want to do is actually get closer with these athletes and teams and say, okay, we've done this together. Like where can we go from here? And I think that's really the next step for me. It's not an immediate payoff in the moment, but then you build a relationship. It actually, like for me, it all goes back to relationships. It's like, it's not going to pay off in that moment, most likely. But 6 months down the road, like you guys have been working together long enough, it's like, it would be silly not to do something. And so for me, that's kind of like where I see that natural progression of those partnerships. And then a big thing though is, it's like we talk about how influencers now, they don't really need to do partnerships as much. It's like, okay, I kind of see that the same for my things. It's like, why don't I just create my own world, my own products, and try to figure out how that structures within that, and then bring the right people to help scale that. So, yeah.
That's really interesting. So in the same way that you nurtured like your first 1,000 fans, you're nurturing these partnerships that will be big things that you can leverage later down the road.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Quinn. What haven't we asked you that you think is super important for people to know that are listening, that want to get into this space, don't know where to start, need to make the next move, but they just have no idea how to get going?
Yeah, I think I'm probably a bit different than most people in the fact that like I think I see things very unlinear. Like for a lot of my life, I go through these different phases that I feel like help me develop a certain, like I had my hippie phase. I went and told myself I was going to sell my company for like $100,000 and just go live in a van for a while. And I think that I had these different pieces of my life that shape the way I kind of like view how things and when they're supposed to happen. And yeah, as far as questions go, I think it's more about like, I think it comes down to like where the creative side goes. It's like, how does that play into stuff? Like for me, as from a personal side, it's more, how am I going to get behind the camera again? How am I going to create? How am I going to like show up and get my hands dirty and start like, not just be the one telling people what to do for best celebrations, but more so like, or culture. It's like, how am I going to direct these short films and make things come to life in conjunction with that? I think that's really where I'm trying to place myself at the top of it. It's like, because I feel like for so long, I definitely fell asleep of like, oh, I don't have to be involved. I can be like a passive owner. It's like, well, people live through you, through your brands. It's not best celebrations that's working with people most of the time. It's like people are coming to Quinn. They want to work through Quinn. And right. I forgot that for years. And it's like from these like this long kind of, or this long, I guess, skin in the game of people that have known me for so long and starting to like put that together with like my creative vision.
Well, man, we're pretty done on time here, but before we wrap it up, you want to plug your personal socials, your theme pages, give it a go.
I guess you guys can follow me on @Wave, my personal brand on Instagram. I'll be posting there more soon. And then my Twitter is @Quinn, QUINN SLCM. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Sweet. Thanks,
Awesome.
Quinn.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for a combo.
100%.
Woo!